Welcome to the Organizing to Victory podcast, where we're talking garage politics. My name's Lee Perry, and we have such a special guest who's joining us today. His name is Charlestin, a very good friend of mine who lives in Pine Hills, Florida. Pine Hills has been categorized as an unsafe neighborhood with a high concentration of minorities who live there. And the way that Seven approaches direct mutual aid to serve his community really inspires me. He's an organizer from March for Our Lives Pine Hills and is the founder of his own nonprofit called Seeds of Pine Hills, also known as Semillas. And he has after-school programs, mentorship opportunities, so many incredible direct services that he does with the love of his community and with a collaboration of other organizations that also give back. So here's my conversation with Seven. I am so excited for this interview because not only is my dear friend Seven someone that I literally look up to, and you're younger than me, which is so fun. But your story is probably one of my favorite stories out of anyone I've ever interviewed ever. So I've interviewed you in a non-political way, and today I'm kind of excited to intersect conversations about your story and where you live and the organizing that you do with the political conversation. So everybody, welcome my dear friend Seven. So nice to see you. How are you?
Nice. I'm okay. Surviving the times.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here. Definitely, you're one of the most renowned names in Orlando when it comes to political work, especially on the ground. Whether people like you or don't like you, they know that you're a force to be reckoned with.
Well, you know what it is? I just have this hunger for justice.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I might get emotional already. We're just not even 2 minutes in. I have this hunger for real justice.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I get angry.
Yeah.
On the front lines.
Yeah.
I know I smile a lot and I make a lot of jokes, but people are really hurting right now.
For sure.
And I put my full self into everything that I do, especially as an environmentalist where the animals don't get to have a say in what's going on, but I can feel the pain that's happening in our natural world. The part of the reason why I'm so excited to interview you is that you embody on the same front lines for justice a whole other character. You're very calm. You're very poised. You're actually a little shy, which I think is so interesting because you're a very strong leader and people follow you by the hundreds, I feel. And I watch your work and I see what you do and I never, ever, ever feel anger from you. And it's part of like something that I actually just wish I could encapsulate whenever I talk to you. So I'm excited to introduce my friend Seven. So tell me your story and pretend that you and I have never met.
Okay. I am never great at this because I think I'm a bit, people say I'm a bit reticent where I don't speak as much as I can. I usually try to use the least amount of words as possible. And I might do that here. And if I leave important stuff out, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. But I guess, I've lived a colorful life. And all those things have resulted into what I do and who I am, I guess. I share some of those same characteristics. People might not see me and think anger or anything like that. But I do think I'm driven by anger more than I am by love or anything else. It's largely anger of like how people I care about are being treated, how just how unjust some things are. For me, it's like my brain, I can't half-ass a thing. If I feel charged to do something, I'm gonna go at it 100%. And that's kind of how I got into the space, to give like a quick
let's start with young Seven.
Okay. A young Seven, awkward as I am now. Maybe more, no, definitely a lot more awkward than I am now.
Me too.
I didn't learn to speak until I was about 6. So, um, developmental issues and all that, I was diagnosed with autism a lot later in my life. I think I've always had like a rebellious spirit. I was always like a really good student. Dang, I feel like I'm giving too much information, but I'm just,
People love to learn
yeah.
through other people's stories. So you're educating people as you tell this story about yourself.
Okay. I've always was a really good student, you know, advanced classes, all the different things, I did it with very little effort. But I was a rebellious child too. And if I felt like I was being slighted, jaded, discriminated against, it was very easy for me to like not want to be in a space or correspond the way I was supposed to. So, even with how of a student I was, I got expelled maybe 5 times from public school. So I loved learning, but got expelled quite a lot. A lot of it definitely was because of, just kind of the time and the place that I was in. There was a lot of schools trying to get their grades up, especially in the Pine Hills area. So it's like, looking for students that are potential trouble students. And I was like one of the ones that kind of stuck out. So I was like, sooner or later, we got to get him out. So that happened time and time again. And I think that really helped me learn more about the world and about systems. I went from public schools that were decent, had this a decent amount of like resources and stuff for students, to, going to alternative schools where, there's not a lot of accredited teachers. We don't have libraries. Most of the classes don't use books. We just use computers. We're getting searched in the mornings, criminalized, characterized for all different types of things. And I had to catch the bus a few miles out from where I lived just to go to these different schools. So I learned a lot about just systems through those schools and et cetera. I learned there's a lot of students that were like me that weren't necessarily trouble kids, but they fell through the cracks of the system. I would later on become a teacher at an alternative school, which was a paradox all on its own that kind of happened accidentally.
Just beautiful,
it's
no
okay.
Such thing as coincidence, but a beautiful way to bring that story around.
Yeah, but yeah, I realized, there were a lot of students like me who had some kind of disability and they're not getting those resources at the school. So it's easier to just put them in a box somewhere. Yeah, where was I going? Okay. So that's kind of my academic background and kind of like how I came into like thinking about systems. I think coming into organizing, it wasn't something that I imagined. Well, no, I think it's something I imagined. The first few books I read, were
what were the books?
Malcolm X, James Baldwin, etc. And I don't know if anyone actually kind of introduced those people and the ideas around different Black organizers and organizing, but it's something that I think really came to me through just like the spirit of community and just the rebellious nature of the community that I was born and raised in, Pine Hills. And my family, my mom and dad weren't like organizers or whatnot, but they did whatever they could to help the community out. And through their example, I think I understood more of what this community stuff is about. So let me make a long story short. I started organizing, I guess, on Valencia main campus. As a student, it's not a very easy place to navigate as someone on the spectrum, and help to get like a advocacy group started. And at first it was just like a group that kind of met up and talked about different things related to, how to cope on campus. Then, we did, some protests and whatnot to, forget that autism advocacy group, but some harmful groups. And yeah, from there, I realized I definitely have the ability to organize, and that it's needed in different spaces, especially for someone like me who's poor, I guess disabled to an extent, poor, disabled, Black, male, etc. I realized that there's going to be a lot of different spaces in which I need to try to advocate for myself and people who are like me and people who aren't like me, because I'm not the only marginalized person out there. So that's kind of how I got started on my journey, and this is going to be a long story. So I'm gonna so around 2018, I've been painting murals in different communities for a while. And then at that time, I started to notice, I was going out to different communities around Florida, different cities to go paint murals. And I just seen like what it meant to the community that someone would do this in their community. The pride that they took in just like the infrastructure being built in their community and what it said about them. And then I'd come home and I'm realizing, these dilapidated walls and etc. And kind of what it's saying about us. And I don't think it spoke the truth about the neighbors that I have in my community. So, I guess one of the first projects of my organization, Las Semillas, was the Powers Art Mural. And it was a beautiful project. We had like over 30 Black and brown artists, from the ages of like 9 all the way up to 70, different demographics of people, a lot of first time artists, most of them residents who kind of just wanted to be a part of this project. And it was a beautiful project. So many people came out and supported us, and they couldn't believe that we're doing this for the community. And so many people felt really touched by that project. I'll see people in the community nowadays who just remember me from that project, and it's like it's so weird because like so many people I don't know who know me from somewhere, and it's weird. But that project was like the first thing our organization did together. We weren't even an organization at the time, but we had some challenges to that project from I don't know if I can even call them local developers, but special interest folks who had businesses in Pine Hills and had like intuition of like what they wanted to see built in Pine Hills. And they saw our art and they were like, we have a vision for 2030 or 2050 and it doesn't look like this. And, they had like a whole list of demands and basically told us either we repaint the wall with their recommendations or they'll get it demolished and possibly have legal action for us, which was insane to me at the time because that project was done, with the support of the county commission. It was done, it was done legally. We used our money. I took out student loans to get that wall made, that wall painted and everything. And, someone who felt like they had extra judicial powers just said, either you do what we tell you to, or we're going to knock it down.
Was there anything on the mural that was offensive?
I don't think so. There was one mural with like Korean letters, but it was just saying like Happy New Year and stuff like that. And that was one thing that the person took offense to. They're like, there's too many faces, too many dark colors. They want
too many dark faces.
They didn't say dark faces, but they said too many faces and then too many dark colors. But I can put 2 and 2 together. and it was, it's not coherent enough. We just want one message. We want light colors. And they had all these lists of demands, and it was like, you don't have the right to tell us to do anything.
Total side note, my husband and I are planning a trip to Berlin. And the Berlin Wall has sections from different artists from all over the world. And immediately, it's a huge tourism attraction.
Yeah.
And it looks just like this beautiful mural that you all painted with all these beautiful artists and children from across the community, where every section tells a different story. That should be something that's applauded and something that is used to attract tourism, which, you say the word tourism in Orlando and everybody goes crazy because they respect the tourists more than they respect the residents sometimes. But in this case, it looks like they just completely disregarded all of this opportunity to tell the story from the community.
Yeah. And we realized, I've done similar projects like this in other communities. And, for me, it brought up feelings of like, it's the same stuff, but we're being told we can't do it because, there's this perception around who we are as a community. And it's racist stuff, and, they're basically telling us to hide who we are, to figure out another way to show pride that is more amenable to the general public. And yeah, they're basically saying, how dare we try to like do a project on our own without asking them, or how dare we try to represent ourselves in a different way.
Maybe you can tell folks a little bit about why, like, what's the stereotype of Pine Hills?
Yeah. Of course, we're one of the first areas where white flight happened and occurred in Orange County. And there's been demonization of our community since the 70s, since the 80s. And we've dealt with large amounts of divestment, large amounts of overcriminalization. For the most part, we get all the dog whistles about crime, about having, I guess, too many ethnic groups and not what is the word? Not being cultured or whatnot. I think that's something that that I was hearing from all the conversations around, the art being ghetto, or not looking like art that you would see in East Colonial or some other neighborhood.
The murals were gorgeous. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And for the most part, we were getting this pushback from these folks who had special interest in our community as something to be commodified, And in large part for me, I realized, they just didn't want to be associated with Blackness. And that's what our community is associated with for the most part, Blackness. And we had a few choices then to either fight back or to just, give the project away to someone else or stop working. Some of the artists didn't want to continue because we realized after we did some research that, the people that we would be organizing against have a decent amount of power. And I think that was kind of like the moment for me, is like, when I go in, I usually go all in. Is either I let it go or I go all in. And I think that was the moment we really started to advocate. That was the moment we really became an organization, because, we weren't going to stop.
And I think this was around 2020 when there was a lot of like national conversations around race and representation and crime and, Blackness.
Yeah.
With the murder of George Floyd and, a lot of the protests and the violence against protesters, like a lot of these conversations were being had at the same time that you're in your own community, like trying to preserve this asset to the community, while these forces are basically trying to disrupt your culture building in this community.
Yeah. At that moment, I didn't realize how many different like organizations or people that they were in Pine Hills who are making like really large decisions that affected everyone in Pine Hills. And in Pine Hills, we have like over 85,000 people, and it's such a small amount of people making really big decisions for everybody.
Right.
We realized this through the process of fighting for that art wall, and we're like, dang, we can't look away now, because now we know. Now we know what's happening, and especially if we care about what happens to Pine Hills, or how Pine Hills develops and grows as a community, that we have to get involved right now. And that's mainly kind of how we got started. Of course, 2020 happened. I was in the midst of like organizing protests downtown, and there are different people like mentorship groups, food pantries, youth programs, etc., looking for spaces to like hold their programming, to meet each other, etc. And nobody knew what to do really, because 2020 the world kind of stopped.
Right.
And for whatever reason, a lot of people were just coming to me for answers, and I got people connected to different resources and whatnot, and I realized all of us are kind of doing the same work. So that's kind of how we started. Like, as a mutual aid collective, we realized a lot of people need food, a lot of people are housing insecure right now, and a lot of people are looking to do some impactful work. So that's kind of how we started. Right now we work with roughly 12 organizations. We work with about 6 churches, 6 schools, and 4 apartment complexes, and 7 days a week we're really just trying to figure out ways to work together to serve the community in Pine Hills. We're still only like 5 years young, and figuring out how we can stabilize the work that we're doing. It's definitely not easy. And I appreciate where we are, and the fact that we have this opportunity to do something different.
Well, my favorite part about what you do is, you have this incredible story, this incredible background. You were organizing protests for March for Our Lives Pine Hills because you saw a lot of gun violence in your community at that time. I remember you telling me, and the intersectionality between the injustices that you saw in the education system, and then you go out in the community trying to do good, and you see like this lack of representation of the mass of people that you're organizing compared to the small minority of people who had more political power than your organization. And then you're seeing this need to convene people, to build that sense of community. And you just seem to be like kind of juggling, bringing people together and trying to connect individuals. But then you start to develop this hub of mutual aid, after school programs, food pantry, chess club, football, Black business farmers markets, and like drum circles. And just maybe tell us, like, what is it that you're trying to accomplish, and what is it about this ecosystem that you've built that's so important?
Yeah. So we use, I guess it's kind of an academic term. We use, I guess, a practice that we call collective impact. And you've probably heard of collective impact. Collective impact is really when different sectors of community, of society come together to try to solve similar systemic issues. And really, I think that's kind of at the crux of it, that we need to build new systems that, all these different issues aren't they aren't disconnected, like we have the English learner programs, we try to do like the know your rights and citizenship clinics. We have the community garden, we do the food pantries, we do the community school programs and the after school programs. All those are different programs, but I think they're all kind of connected to the similar issue of the central issue that we don't have communal spaces, and we don't have communal spaces, and as well we're losing the ability to organize ourselves through this over privatization of everything that is happening within society. There are lots of larger structures that are causing, some of these systematic, I don't even know if I can call it systematic failures, because that's just how the system works. But there are a lot of larger structures that are causing some of these failings in our society, capitalism, white supremacy, etc. And, we're trying to figure out how to build a system that works for people. I think mutual aid is, a much more than just like the act of doing something, but a system. The same way you can't do white supremacy in one act, or you can do capitalism in one act. I don't think you can do mutual aid in a single act, but it's like a system of like shared responsibility and community. Like I don't think the schools should be fighting for their lives by themselves, and for the community not to be involved with the decision making of like how those schools work, run, and continue to build. I don't think, it doesn't matter what problem within society. I think all of it comes down to like shared responsibility, and we have to build those. We have to build the tactics. We have to build the culture. We have to build the tools so that we can have a society that works for people. Hopefully that makes sense.
It makes sense, because at the end of the day, you're trying to build something that your community doesn't have, and frankly, it's so hard to do that. My community is also similarly like underfunded. There's like a lot of air pollution, because there's nothing but like, auto part dealerships and things like that, and car, dealerships around us, and nothing is walkable. The pedestrian fatality rate in this area is terrible. There's lots of diverse residents, but no centralized way to get to know your neighbors and get to build that sense of community. And so it's almost like everyone's struggling just in this silo. But something that's magnificent that you've done, that I've honestly been trying to do in this part of town that I've never been successful in. I mean, I've gone door to door. I've held events where we've like had mutual organizations come together. But like, you have so much buy-in. And I think that's a testament to your leadership, is that you have so much buy-in from so many other organizations that are like, they see what you're trying to do and they're fully committed to like working with you to build it. And I wonder where that came from and how that's just continuing to be more and more successful.
I think for the most part, we have built ourselves around like collaborating with different organizations and different organizations and sectors of, the community, because we don't have it all, we don't have all the answers, and the answers are going to come from everybody. In large part, when I was talking about collective impact earlier, I think instead of just around the service kind of business, we're into like the culture kind of business. Like, voter outreach, that is a service that we could be doing to the community, but we want to build something. We want to build something that will help to embed that in our culture.
Right.
If you regularly speak to your neighbors about coming out to the community event, if there's like signs around the community, if there's transportation to get to the community meeting every month, if there's like communication systems to get people to know that the community event's happening. It's less that people are going because someone told them to, but because it's a cultural thing that we have built because we understand that this is the thing that needs to be done. So, we're trying to build a culture of centering people and build a culture of centering people and building things that will help us continue to build power. So I hope I answered the question because I already forgot it.
It's fantastic because I see like religion being a sister example to what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Where people go to church, yes, because of whatever religion that it is, they might practice it or read about it or fully live within the religious context of their lives. But it's also a sense of community. It's also a sense of culture for individuals that want to feel like they're around like-minded people and want to feel like they're living towards something with like-minded people together. What you're doing is something that I think is absolutely fascinating because in politics, it feels very transactional. You don't feel like you can really trust anyone who says anything on the campaign trail because you don't see them around your community often enough to feel like they're not doing it just for votes. And yet they're asking you to trust, and I say it's not a partisan thing. It's on both sides, all sides. They're trusting you to let them represent you. And yet there is no culture built around that person within the community that they're trying to serve. And I find it so fascinating that you've been able to do this because I think politics would be so much less contentious and so much more of a part interwoven within a part of our lives if we prioritize that. Just like you said with the voter outreach example, it's less about we're just going to knock on doors with the return that we want you to vote. We are going to invite you consistently every year, all year, to come out and eat, break bread, listen to music, support one another. And then when voting season comes up, it's just part of the conversation that's being had within the community, but not the sole interaction that's driving that voter engagement.
Yeah.
We want better for our community. Why? Because you know your neighbor, you love your neighbor. So now you want your neighbor to have clean water. Well, here's a candidate that's advocating for clean water for our community. That's the root of why we're going to go together and vote for this person, because caring about your community comes first because you've built that culture around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, just as well too, when it comes to like the political side of it, we're trying to keep like our ideology centered in like building with people,
Right.
what people want, what people need. And I think that's been able to help us collaborate with other organizations and get buy-in and whatnot. We have so many different people that we work with. And largely, our thoughts on like buying in is like, do you want to help the community? Are you actively harming other people? And if you're not actively harming people and you want to do actual community stuff, we have so many places where you can plug in, and we would definitely like to work together. We work with so many different groups, like right now we're at like one of the churches that we work with, because we work with about 6, it's head by a Republican pastor who's very big on Trump and Trumpism, et cetera. And we work with, like a communist organization at the same church. And we've actually had trans and LGBTQ events at this church as well. And, the pastor might just look the other way because, he knows me and my brand at least is strong enough for him to be like, he's just doing this to help other people. Definitely not ideologically one-to-one with every person, every church that we work with. There's definitely a lot of people with some problematic practices and whatnot. Let me not throw any churches on the bus. But at the end of the day, we all similarly have the same needs. We all need the same things, and just trying to keep the work centered in helping people.
Mm-hmm. And it's in the fight for justice that I think drives both of us. I've found myself trying to get into this rat race of getting good people elected with the hope that when they get into political power, they'll be able to pull the levers to get us to justice.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they have the levers, there's so many obstacles and steps that would prohibit even a good leader from being able to bring those direct actions into direct services for people who are in the most vulnerable situations in our community. I mean, just building shelters for the homeless in a public governmental way is very challenging because you have to listen to everybody. And if 100 people show up to a town hall and say they don't want that shelter in their community, you have to listen to that community, even though there are people literally dying on our streets, And so I see so many flaws in politics that you have been able to, through that collective, mutual aid type way, bring in these direct services so that people who, you've told me stories of helping students who are homeless find a place to sleep when they literally are on the streets, or helping kids that, their parents have to work and they don't have anywhere to go after school, helping them have something to do so that they're not getting into trouble or, heaven forbid, getting kidnapped. You've been able to provide things, we want our government to provide, shelter and, services for the homeless, or free healthcare, or free after school programs. And it's really, really hard, unnecessarily hard, to provide those services for the same people that fund the government.
Yeah. And I do think, even with some of those things that I've been able to provide, mutual aid is still extremely limited. I think what we're trying to do with our communal project is build something that will be able to meet the needs of people within the community, but we can only do so much right now. We are broke.
Well, tell me a little bit about what people are feeling and what you're seeing on the ground right now. What are people going through right now?
It's difficult. A lot of people just don't know what to do, or how to react. I think there's a lot of despair right now, where it's whatever they're gonna do to me, they're gonna do it to us, regardless if I speak out or not. So I'm just gonna mind my business and try to stay out of trouble. Some people.
Because Pine Hills has a really high population of immigrants, as well as just individuals that have been, like you said, systemically oppressed and underserved. You have a concentration of people that I feel need the most resources, and yet where's the leaders? Where's the leadership?
It's tough, especially when you're talking about immigrant communities that historically don't seek out support, or don't speak out, because they know they are of some of the most marginalized, and the best thing that they could probably do for themselves is not be seen. And I think it is easy to see that, especially, I'll say that it's not easy. I can understand it's not easy to try to go and find those people and hear what they have to say, because, especially elected officials, they have so much to do. And I think it's convenient to a point that if the people aren't coming up to you with their problems, then what am I supposed to do when I have all these other things, all these other things to do? I don't think. I think it's the way the system's built for marginalized people not to feel encouraged to go and advocate for themselves.
Right.
And what I'm hearing from a lot of people are, they're kind of just not sure what to do. They're kind of waiting for the next thing, or just trying to just like not not be a target, trying their best to kind of stay out of the way. There have been a lot of people who are here legally, with asylum and other things, and they've just self-deported because they can't hold on to a job because they're being discriminated against, and it's hard to hold on to an apartment, and etc. And yeah, it feels hopeless for a lot of folks, um and it's hard for us too, because we there are a lot of advocacy organizations that usually would work, especially around immigration, to like support people who are needing help with those things. But yeah, everyone's being targeted. Most of the organizations that would help, their resources are depleted. And I think that's kind of where we are right now. It's like we have to build new tactics and continue to be steadfast and try to do what it is that we can be done that we can do in the moment, because yeah, everyone's kind of being attacked.
And I know every country has its issues, but I think specifically because you have such a high concentration of Haitian residents, it terrifies me. I haven't even heard direct testimonials of what people are feeling from Haiti who live here, but seeing what's going on in Haiti and just knowing that things are spiraling very quickly, and that even if you have your paperwork, it could be revoked and you could be deported back into that chaos right now. It's a really scary reality that people have to somehow juggle on top of trying to pay their bills, trying to go to work, trying to just navigate, and then of course we have an affordability crisis on top of that. So it's like people just being able to make ends meet that are here legally is already a challenge. So
Yeah.
I find it absolutely essential what you're doing in so many ways, because it's almost like the gap that the government can't even really step in, even if we had a full board at every level of competent leaders on the local level at the city of Orlando or Orange County. We do have some good representatives at the state level, but we're so outnumbered by those who seek to harm us that even if they had levers of power, they still wouldn't be able to provide the same amount of direct resources that you can.
Yes and no. We are able to do some things through some of our partners, but again, it's not enough. It's not enough. And I think what's been heard from community members, lawyers we spoke to, organizations that do advocacy work, is that nobody knows what the rules are. There are no rules right now. And the ambiguity is purposeful. To make people scared. Make people not go to work. Make people not go to school. Just make their lives untenable.
Right.
And I think that's where we are. There's no rules, and people are just trying to figure out what can they hold on to or hang on to.
Yeah. So maybe tell me a little bit about right now what your focus is and what you really want help and support if people who are watching want to add to what you're working on.
So there's so many things happening that we're trying to figure out how to deal with. I think regular people, best things that they can do, join local organizations fighting for something. Us personally, we need everything from people power to donors and other things like that. But we're not alone. All the different organizations need the same things. I think in general, we just need to get organized and be serious about what's happening.
Right.
Yeah, I think we just need to get organized and be serious about what's happening. It's not easy. I think the overall feeling that I've gotten from a lot of people is just the feeling that we don't have agency. There can be an administration that comes in today and overrides all the rules and do whatever they want and get away with it, and people just have to take it. We have these tech oligarchs that are basically selling poison out on the internet, online or whatever, and it feels like little to nothing that we can do. It feels like a very hostile takeover from all these different industries, and I think there's a lot of propaganda around the fact that we can't do anything, and a lot of hope that people will start to lose faith in resisting. But I think just people need to organize, people need to resist, people need to claim their own agency. There's not an AI takeover. It's not here yet. We still have agency to build things in our community. Tech platforms are not all powerful. We still have agency to be able to say what we want and don't want. And even this administration, they're not all powerful either. I think the illusion with empires is that they'll never fall. But what's the one thing that all empires do? They fall. Yeah, that's all that I can profess to people. I don't know everything. I don't know all that I'm doing. And I'm still figuring stuff out. I think my most important role as a human being, as a citizen, is to be a witness, to witness myself, to witness my community, and to use that awareness to try to build a better world. I don't have all the answers. I don't think any of us does, but yeah, I just hope people are being present in this moment.
Yeah, and the work you're doing is such a threat. Because imagine if every corner, every block had a Las Semillas. People wouldn't look at their phones as much. People wouldn't need to go to the store and buy so much. I mean, so much of the systems that try to keep us like codependent on them would fail if we were independent, if we were able to, as a community, self-serve one another and be more present with one another, provide services for one another, and not have this constant need to consume and constant need for all these industries that you literally just said are attacking us right now. They're attacking us and systemically privatizing every single need that we have, from healthcare to education, with the hope that they will keep us codependent. The more independent organizations like yours start to be born, the more of a threat you are. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a need for people to continue to organize, build organizations, support local organizations. And yeah, even outside of an organization, I think the individual is wildly underestimated.
Right.
There's so many things that an individual can do to shake up things that organizations can't always do. I think it comes from where you shop, where you spend your time, who you publicly support, what events you're publicly going to, how you use your voice, etc. Individuals have immense power, and I think a lot of people don't see that. But yeah, I forgot what I was saying.
No, I was going to say that, especially in communities that have been marginalized for generations. I grew up in the projects in Boston with my mom, and some of those moments were some of the best moments of my life, where I knew every neighbor down there was like rows of public housing,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew almost everyone. We kept eyes on each other. You know,
Yeah.
we took care of one another, and we knew who to go to for different needs.
Yeah.
You know, like there was one lady who was doing catch and release for cats to help with a spay and neuter program. And so if we caught a cat that was sick, we knew where to bring it to the cat lady's house.
Yeah.
You know, we had another neighbor that would like cook for like the whole neighborhood. And we always knew if we needed to get a bowl of rice and beans, we could go there. You know, it was like, you know, it was just really a cool moment growing up as a kid. People, you know, in my family that were not as poor as my mom and I would make so many comments like, oh my God, I can't believe your mother has you living there. But like reflecting back, yeah, there was some gang violence and gun violence that happened and things like that. But just that sense of responsibility for one another was something that is so unique today in now where I live, Florida, where I live in a suburb that is a blighted area with everyone struggling. No, this is not a rich suburb. This is an area where people are one paycheck away from being homeless, but we don't know each other.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And I try,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I grow food here. I try to bring it up to, you know, the little, you know, South Korean lady down the street. And, you know, she like says something really quick and then like runs in the house. I think people are a little scared to talk to each other here because we don't have that culture that you've been like really impactful at building, where people trust to not just come out once, but like to continue coming and sharing that space with you. It's a very unique thing that if we all had it, our communities would be safer. Kids would be, you know, in an environment where they can feel safe and ask questions and have some camaraderie that would keep them educated and out of gang violence. And, you know, a lot of the problems that we have rooted today are because of our individualistic society that we live in, I believe.
Yeah. When you speak about like how, you know, you try to reach out to your neighbors, it makes me think about, there's this book. I feel terrible because I'm forgetting the author's name. There's a book that coins a term called elite capture, and I think that is a seminal point in where we are as a society. I think if you understand the term and you probably read the book, you'll probably see it everywhere. You know, where the things that we've had, our identities, communal spaces, our traditions, our cultures, you know, where all of them through, you know, our system of capitalism are usually captured for one reason or another to serve, you know, elite institutions and elite groups of people. You know, the community was once a thing that we held very strong, and it was something that was cherished and something that built pride, you know. But, you know, through so many different institutions, whether it be like social media, whether it be through TV, you know, media, or whether it be through there's so many different institutions that have stripped the power away from being in the community, and has kind of captured this idea of community and used it to their own advantage. You know, even in politics a lot, you know, we will have very big issues like gun violence or food sovereignty or et cetera. And a lot of times, you know, there are politicians that'll take some of these movements and they'll capture kind of the essence of it and use it for their own benefit, and kind of take away all the power of the communities that lead those movements. And you what that does really is just it robs us of the agency to be able to talk about these things, because Ron DeSantis wants to weaponize woke. Now no one within their communities can use it with any valor, because someone with elite power is able to capture the essence of it and reuse it. And I think we have to figure out how to own our own things again, how to take back that power. And we had this whole conversation before this this podcast episode with you and your husband when we were talking about the movie Sinners. So much of what we build within community and amongst like regular people, so much of that culture is vulnerable to the larger systems at play. And I think without knowledge of like how we maintain our culture, how we maintain ownership of things within our community, maintain agency of like what is built and what isn't built for us or by us, we are we're doomed to continue to repeat these cycles where people with power can come in and take our messages, take our movements, and make them their own, and take all the power that the movements originally had. And for people who haven't watched Sinners, that's basically it.
Well, I find it so interesting because how racism is so tied into capitalism, how slavery was basically a means to an end to gain a labor force, to have control and to have power and to have money, and how every single aspect of industry right now, like you said, we're under attack, how they're trying to commodify every part of every need that we have in our lives in order to control us and basically enslave us.
Yeah.
So like I can give you a perfect example. I've been doing a lot of work to fight to protect Split Oak Forest. This toll road is going to the middle of nowhere in the middle of the wildlife corridor. And it's basically going to a huge lot of land where they want to develop over 500,000 homes. Well, when you talk about culture, you talk about the need to preserve our culture in order for us to build power. They want to mass grade hundreds of thousands of acres to build these individual homes with probably a Publix and a Taco Bell and a Walmart and, the same
copy paste
as they do in every community in Florida, where there's no walkability, no sense of community, no shade, so you can even go outside, probably a couple little pop-up parks with one bench. And the only means to get to affordable work, because these homes are going to start at like $600,000 a home, is to get on a toll road where now they're going to control the amount of money you have to pay to get to and from work. I see it as enslavement. They are literally trying to, and I see like Lake Nona being a perfect example of this. There are people that live in Lake Nona that are trying so hard to get their neighbors to come out and get to know each other, to build that sense of community, that sense of pride, that sense of culture, because it just feels so desolate and sterile out there. And it sounds like you're trying to have this renaissance. You're trying to take Pine Hills, which has been historically referred to as like crime hills because of the Black stereotypes, and you're trying to redefine it, reclaim your community's culture, and build it into something beautiful to have control over the fate of your community's destiny. Because that's your path to justice. Am I interpreting that right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful story and a beautiful method that you're going about this. And the way that I see politics, this is the first time I've ever put my finger on it through your story, is that like government should be responsible for holding industries accountable so that they don't enslave us in those ways. Because capitalism, everybody wants to intertwine our government and patriotism with capitalism. If you say you're anti-capitalist, then you're a communist and you're an enemy. But just throw all of those words aside. It's about freedom. It's about having clear decisions to take that agency and be able to free yourself from that control. And government should be a vessel to doing that. And instead, in so many ways, it feels like it surrenders to it. It almost is enslaved itself, because our elected officials are either paid in a campaign contribution way from these industries, or the industry finds a way to put legal power by lawsuits and until they surrender and submit to their desires, like developers are suing Orange County right now, or they find a way to influence in other ways through manipulation, through saying, if you want that community center, we could fund and make that happen. Or if you want those easements to put in that road that you really need in order to like curb fatalities, we can help you get that easement, but you're going to owe us something in return. And so I think systematically, that is really where government has failed people. Is because industry has found a way to seep into all those cracks of what government could be to check that corruption and keep it at bay so that we can be truly free.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say, a lot of them are the vampires of our of our real life sinners play,
right?
Where they just want power. Doesn't matter if a lot of Florida is a floodplain, and doing this would put a lot of people's lives in danger, and our entire ecosystem, and etc. They just kind of want power, and I think the system is built around, those folks being at an advantage to take power. And that's one of the reasons why, personally, I believe in like the use of, I forgot who coined this term, but it's called like dual power, where, you're trying to build power within your community and on the streets and et cetera. And then you're trying to build power within the government, in governing, et cetera. A lot of people have asked me if I want to run for office or et cetera.
You brought it up, not me.
It's okay. But I do think you can't have communities that are working very well without there being large and maybe complex organizing on the ground that works and functions in a way that creates new leaders, in a way that creates new institutions, to also have a government that could be responsive, or politics that could be responsive to that. In general, I'm always thinking about that.
You could do both. I mean, this is how I see it, at least through the candidates and the elected officials I've had the honor to work with. When you have an organizer's heart and know-how, and you become an elected official, you leverage the clout and the power that you have politically from a policy standpoint with your on-the-ground organizing efforts. And when those two are intertwined, you get what most people call like progressives. I hate terminology that at the end of the day, like you said, we all have needs. We all need to drink water. We all need to eat food. Like, you can call it Democrat, you can call it Republican, but at the end of the day, do your elected officials pick up the phone? Can you see them at a farmer's market or on the street just as much as you see them at a town hall? Are they accessible when you need them? People call that a progressive candidate. I call that should be the status quo. And there's so many elected officials that just disappear that you can barely get a hold of them. You can barely get a hold of an answering machine. And very rarely see them except for when it's the next election year.
Yeah.
And that's for both sides of the political spectrum. My dream of justice is that we have a system, hopefully not a duopoly, but if that's the system we have right now, that's the system we have. My dream to get to justice using this political system is that we will have organizers who are also elected officials.
Yeah.
Who understand how to do those mutual aid events and do the town halls and, forums.
Yeah.
Because people just don't have time to respond to a lot of those political spaces. But you use the levers like you did. You found a church that was willing to house your organization. And you found a way to create home bases all over different churches over time, and then find all these partners and relationships. There's no reason why every single elected official in office right now isn't doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the mindset can be duplicated, but to do both, to be on the ground and be an elected official, I'm not sure how possible that is, because I'm doing one of those things right now, and sleep is elusive sometimes.
Yeah. It is hard. It is hard.
Me personally, I think the type of person that I am, that I'm more suited to be on the ground and doing that type of stuff. I think there are people that would be good, elected officials, and have those type of skills. I don't have those type of social skills.
I can't wait for you to watch this when you're a senator one day. You're going to call me up and be like, Lee, remember that time we did that podcast?
I think if you see my name on a ballot, that something is seriously wrong, and you have my permission to call my mom. But I see good people in the community all the time that might want to do it, and I would encourage them to do it. It's just, there's so many things to do, so little time, so little resources. And yeah, we're still trying to figure out what it looks like and whatnot. But yeah, I do think the on the ground aspect is very important. And I think we have to do that. Mm-hmm. I think it has to be a priority. And yeah, especially for Pine Hills, I feel like I want to be a thought leader for that, to be able to build that. It's not gonna happen in a year, definitely not gonna happen in 10 years or 20 years, but day at a time. I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm studying, and I'm trying to build that culture so that it'll be there for generations after me. Mm-hmm. But I hear what you're saying.
Well, I really love what you're doing, and I want to take a moment just to kind of ask you, because you could be at home scrolling on your phone, watching Netflix. What drives you to continue to get up and get out of bed? Because you're so aware, you see a lot. You have to hear other people's stories, and I'm sure you hear a lot of pain and a lot of joy too. But there's so many people that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they don't go outside of themselves to serve others. Maybe they feel like they don't know how. Maybe they feel a little powerless. But through your story, I'd like to hear what drives you to do that work.
I would say it's probably like a deterministic set of events that has made me who I am. Being autistic, I'm extremely empathetic. So I do think about other people more than myself sometimes, even in a way that's not healthy. My parents, they've the way that they raised me or whatnot. Just my experience within my community. I'm born and raised in Pine Hills. I feel a very special connection to the place. And I think home, the concept of home, being able to have a feeling of what home is in your heart is very important. Yeah, I think I just a special certain set of set of events had to happen for me to like be in the place that I'm in and feel that this is something that I need to do. I forgot who said the quote, but the quote is that everyone has something unique that they can do, and if they don't do it, it will never be done.
Right.
And I feel like there's other people that feel the way that I do about Pine Hills, about their own community, and that they strive to do that. I don't think I do it for any other reason than the fact that I feel like it's something that enriches me. I don't think it's a selfless thing or an altruistic thing. I think I generally just do it for me. The fact that I want to see Pine Hills do well, I want to see my neighbors be able to afford to live in X, Y, and Z. It is hard. We can't afford to do what we do, but the organization exists largely because of the engine that I am. We'll have times where we can't afford stuff. I recently had to pawn some things just so we can operationally be able to run. And that's stuff that a lot of people wouldn't do. And it's it's a part of me in a weird way. And I think community, definitely, we have to think about it on another set of terms. I do think it's just the way I was raised. I don't see value in terms of like, what can I gain, but more of experiences and what could I do for other people. But again, I sincerely don't think it's altruistic. I think I generally get a rise out of doing stuff, being able to create things. I'm a creative at heart, and I think building community is a creative process. You have to like, you've been there, so you understand.
Yeah, but I don't really see it as a self-serving thing as much. Like, I do know I get endorphins out of organizing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do know that I sleep better. But I would say the only way it's self-serving for me is that I have so much fear and so much anxiety that I'll be crippled if I don't do this much work. People always ask me like, oh my God, Lee, like all these things you're doing, like, are you doing any of them well? I'm like, not really. like I'm stretching myself so thin in all these different ways. But it's honestly the self-serving side of it is that if I don't, and if I just kick back, like I can't sit and watch a full movie without feeling like I need to pull my laptop out and like work on a couple emails. There's that anxiety. But I think it's less about self-serving and more about, what your community deserves. And you want to get it there. It's a drive, and you're just feeding that drive. You're scratching that itch of just wanting to see your community get to where you could bring it. And that is the root of what every elected official should actually be driven into running for office for, because many are running because they want the ego boost of being able to walk into a room and have everybody look at them and want to talk to them. And it's self-serving in that way. But if you walk outside your house and you can see all the ways that it can get better and you directly put your hands on making those changes, you're a hero. You're a hero.
It's okay.
He's a hero.
It's okay.
I want you all to email Seven and say you're a hero, because like I said, you could be scrolling, you could be watching Netflix, you could be sitting back and just trying to get to the next hustle so you can make a little extra dollars to just go on vacation or, do something for just you. And you never stop at what you could just do for you. You go so much further beyond that. And if everyone did that, we would be in a utopia.
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's like, when you've seen so much, you can't unsee it. So it's like you have to do stuff, Again, I think James Baldwin was the person who I'm taking this from. But the most important thing that I could be is a witness. I've seen some things, and I can talk about it, and I could work around it, and I could use my own lived experience to help build new things. So.
Well, I always ask every guest this.
Mm.
I'd love to know from you. I ask everybody, like, what do you do to cope? Like, what's your one fun thing that you do, or song or artist that you like, or book that's you like to read, or what's your like hobby that you do to refuel in this work?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. I don't know if there's one thing that I would say more than the other. Read books, run. I used to run like every day in the morning. I still run like 4 times a week.
Okay.
Chess every day. I see the chess boards. Create, learn. Learning new things is, what fuels me in a lot of different ways.
So tell everybody how they can help you, support you, and donate to you.
I think most of the stuff that we have, most of the information that we have is on our website. So seedsofpinehills.org that Lee helped me create. I think that's a good start.
Okay. And if you could leave everybody with one thing to think about, what would it be?
I read a quote the other day that I'm not 100% sure I agree with yet, but it lands with me.
Okay.
It said the opposite of war isn't peace, it's creativity and creation. We are in a state of war where everyone is kind of being challenged to question things and to build things. I think we need to be able to have the mental capacity and the physical capacity to build the things that we need within our community that don't look like what we're seeing, that are different from the status quo, from the norm, So, in this moment, I always try to think to myself, what am I building? If I'm worried about the people in my community who need help, who don't have viable answers right now, my question is always to myself, what am I building? What is needed right now to be built? So, yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend, John, from Central Florida Jobs with Justice, who told me that he went to Brazil, and the people in Brazil that were organizing around like workers' rights, he basically was saying that they have so little, but they do so much. And here we are, we have so much technology, so much access, and it feels like we could be doing so much more.
Yeah.
But maybe what you're trying to say in your quote is that it doesn't need to feel burdensome to fight in this war.
Yeah.
Because creativity should be a way to fuel yourself, and being able to build something shouldn't feel odious. It should feel like you're almost blooming, right? Like I don't really feel tired when I'm doing work for the community. Like, it feels overwhelming.
Yeah.
But it feels that creativity of being able to give back and build something with your community. It might be confused with self-servingness because it feels so good, but really what it is it's a true solution to the challenges that are causing the injustice. And so thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm just so honored to have you on this podcast, everybody. So please go to seedsofpinehills.org and support my dear friend Seven.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And please like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends. And if you want to come on the podcast, send us a DM. Go to @organizingtovictory or visit us at organizingtovictory.com. Get involved with this movement. We want to hear from you, and we want to bring people on here that will teach us all one more step to justice. Thank you so much. We'll see you at the next one. Bye.